Range, we're up live. And there, we're on 4 seconds. Good morning, everybody. Forgive us for our tardy. We are here, and I just want to say welcome to this moment. We're going to be dual platform in this, and Nzinga is in the center for good reason, folks. So if you're joining us, wave it out, Nzinga.
Are we waving?
Wave it out, Jacqueline Aluotto. We are together to give good conversation and things that matter because love is our arsenal. If you're joining me on this Instagram platform, we welcome you, but the real party will be taking place on Wendy J. Turner's Facebook page, as well as simultaneously on Hope Over Hurt Nation's YouTube. So what we want from you right now is to join into the conversation. Real issues are still happening, everybody. 24 hours a day, the world is really still turning, and that's no cliche. So while we know COVID-19 has taken us into a place, it's dealing with our data, it's dealing with Wi-Fi, as we've been kind of dealing with challenges just getting here with you. But more overly, it's dealing with sensitive population issues. In addition to that, cancer is still going on. Homelessness is still going on. Hunger has not left the scene. What are we saying to you? We're saying we need to figure prayerfully how to continue to raise awareness, stay balanced, and be proactive in our advocacy. So joining us today is my sister Nzinga and my sister Jacqueline Aluotto to talk about the conversation. Now listen, Nzinga's about to take it over because she's going to wrangle us because we are very much high-strung people, the two on the right and the left. And Nzinga's going to take it in for us so that we can have real conversation, real talk with this lady on the right, Jacqueline Aluotto, if you're watching on Facebook and YouTube. She's a real advocate, meaning she lives her life in it, but you'll hear more about that. So Jacqueline, we thank you for joining us here at HOH Nation.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited just to be here, and you ladies have already made my morning. So I feel very blessed.
You make our day because you do a lot of the work. And I think that sacrifice, sometimes people can feel it and then all of a sudden it goes away because they leave the world of it. Media stops trending it, but you don't stop. And so you are a human trafficking, I'm gonna say expert, and I'm very careful with that word because I think experts is a loose word now.
Yes, it is.
Social media. But I know for a fact you live, eat, and breathe this. And so the knowledge that you have and the hopes that I have for you in the long term of this is our world will be different because you're in it. So with that said, we welcome you to show us how COVID-19, human trafficking, and all of this relates to one another. And Nzinga, it's you. Welcome, everybody.
Hey, family, again, God bless you again. Thank you for joining. Thank you so much, both to our beautiful sisters who's on the front lines day in and day out. Even when you don't see them in person doing anything online, they're connected via the internet, social media, always phone calls, talking to folk around the world about change, positive change that means a lot in this day and time, and positive change that we all can be a part of and get involved with. Okay, and with that said, I want to say both with Jacqueline Aluotto and our sis Wendy J. Turner, we think about both organizations, Real Beauty, Real Women, and Hope Over Hurt. For me, the first thing out of the bat I want to explore is the collaboration on why. Why would Real Beauty, Real Women, and Hope Over Hurt connect?
Right.
And why would they connect? And I'm going to start it off by saying, with Hope Over Hurt, we have 48 bridges. We have 48 bridges, and one of the bridges deal with sex trafficking and human trafficking. Jacqueline. So I know for us on that end, that's immediate connect. And then with Real Beauty and Real Women, Jacqueline Aluotto, with everything that you've done in your organization, do around the world through glamour, through entertainment, but all tied with a social cause for change in it. I love it. That's rooted and grounded in real change with Real Beauty and Real Women. So bless God for both of you for joining.
Thank you.
And now
you don't get to do that.
Collaboration.
You don't get to do that. We bless God for you. You help me pull when I can't pull anymore. You help me push when I can't push anymore. So, no, ma'am, when you were at one of your most vulnerable states and no one knew what you were going through, we drove an old rented passenger van down to Lafayette, Louisiana in the thunderstorm and prayed the whole way with a team of women and went to Walmart parking lot and passed out food and stuff in Louisiana because God said go. And you were the first to jump out to meet the drug addict, to meet the man and embrace him with a hug, to tell people that we did not know. We handed out gas cards, food cards, random acts of kindness, encouraging words written in letters. You were the first out the gate. While I was trying to park the van, you jumped out to go and meet people right where they were. That kind of moment is why HOH is here and why you are a model of example for missions around the world as well, sis. So you don't get to do that.
You better listen to Wendy. She's gonna let you know.
Amen. Yeah, she got me, Jackie. She got me, Jackie. You're right.
So join us on Facebook
But
and
amen.
YouTube.
It's
Yes, the three of us on.
It's a call for all of us. It's a call.
Yeah.
It's a call on all of our lives, and it's just, today is just that moment where the crucialness of connection is crucial.
Yes.
And more need to connect and collaborate and understand that it is about the greater we,
Right.
and not just me. And
Right.
so when we understand it's about the greater we of good, that's the beauty of this collaboration. And many don't know. They've seen you both on many different platforms, and then they've seen you sometimes collectively together. And so today is that day that we pull the lid off.
Yes.
Pull the lid off and say, this is why you see us connected together. Because the heart of service and the heart and love of God emanates and immensely runs through both of you so delicately, so so just compassionately for that which he's called you to do, that it is more need to know about the why, so that others can be unbound and connect to others that are doing work similarly in their own communities, whether it's online or in their backyard, but right in their own cities and states. And so that's why, because of the connect, he's connected us for a reason.
Yeah.
And today it's like, okay, let's reintroduce the connector to the connections that the creator has already created.
And that's the first time I've ever been on HOH platform, and amen because of this. So sis, thank you for even noting that. This is a long time coming because people don't realize that it is this. So Jacqueline is here with us, sis, and I'm attempting to place your comments across our screen. So if you're sending us comments like Daphne McDonald out of Dallas just wrote, that's power. You may be able to see the comments go across the screen. Ladies, can you see that?
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
So Daphne wrote a very long one here. Can you see this one?
Yes.
Yes. So I'm able to share your comments. So please keep it coming on YouTube, on Facebook. Dr. Melita Williams, our medical director of the Hope Clinic, is actually on Instagram. Hey, Doc, you're here. We're here talking. And there's so many different things happening this week. Okay, I'm excited. So it begins with you, Jacqueline.
How do I share this? So like our team, I'll do it from Facebook. Okay, I'll worry about that in a second. But basically with Daphne's comment, I think what really needs to be addressed is that the world is in crisis. Not just the United States, the world.
Yeah.
And I always like to look at the models of countries that are really making a difference and breaking the cycle, whether it's a virus, whether it's the war on poverty, whether it's racism, whether it's oppression, and how are they doing that? Mm-hmm. And I think that we have to understand that the world is constantly changing. Whether you believe in global climate, the glaciers are melting, whether it's the trajectory of how the earth is spinning or global warming, whatever it is, there are going to be crises that are going to happen. There are going to be natural disasters that are going to happen. So we need to put real, tangible plans in place to protect our vulnerable. Obviously, everyone, but when crisis happens, communities in crisis and underserved communities are the ones that are affected the most. And so, So communities in crisis and underserved communities are always going to be the communities that are affected and oppressed the most.
Okay.
And so with that being said, I know that Hope Over Hurt does many incredible things serving the community. But a lot of times people don't realize with human trafficking that the war on poverty plays a huge part with human trafficking. And it is much easier to exploit communities that are really suffering and poverty because you are doing things out of desperation. You are surviving, you are not living. And because we still live in a society where our government doesn't recognize that yet, a lot of our police culture does not recognize that that yet, and a lot of the media does not recognize that yet. We keep on having the same patterns. So with human trafficking, we really see this rise where when we're recovering children, there's no place to take them at the moment because shelters and refuge, safe havens for children so that they can really heal from trauma of what's happening to them, or they can't go home because their traffickers and their predators know where they live. They're not taking in people because of COVID-19 to be quarantined. And so the solutions have to be that we still have to provide safety for children. It's our responsibility. And so we should
do that.
So just my idea, but I'm not saying this is right, is
Okay.
I would have a holding place. There's all these hotels that are abandoned. There's all these big buildings here that are abandoned. We did all this stuff with NRG. If we have the funding for that, let's take some of the funding and put up. And I wouldn't necessarily say a hotel because you wouldn't want to re-trigger or re-traumatize a child. But there are still facilities that no one is using at the moment that could be used to have a holding place when you recover a child for that 2 weeks of quarantine and then transition them into a safe haven. I think that that's something that we really need to look at because human trafficking and child exploitation is on the rise even more now than it was, and it was already an epidemic. Actually, I would say that human trafficking is a pandemic because it's one of the largest illicit crimes in the world. But we just have not been able to really combat it the way we should.
Right.
And so, and again, if you want to understand the magnitude of that, it's over $150 billion industry.
Say that again.
It's over $150 billion industry. And that's just what we think we know. So for children, we really do have to put safe things in place. For underserved communities, we have to put in place because you have all different kinds of trafficking. So I wouldn't say that I'm an expert in human trafficking. I would say I'm very educated. I would say would be considered by certain people to be an expert in specific fields of human trafficking. But human trafficking isn't a crime like robbing a bank. You go in one way, you take the money, and you leave. With human trafficking, there's many dynamics and layers. You have familiar trafficking, you have brothel trafficking, you have the internet of child and sexual exploitation. There's so many different ways that trafficking and exploitation can happen. And in different communities, sometimes it can look different. And so with familiar trafficking, when you are in poverty and you are starving, a lot of times this is what you think is your only way to feed your families or what your families think. And is it right? No. But do we live in that way? No. And so it's very easy for people to say what they wouldn't do. I'm a mom, so I would say, well, I would never do that.
Yeah.
But I've never lived like that. Like I have grown up very poor and rough, absolutely. But there's a difference between growing up poor and rough, but still being able to eat, than growing up so poor where you're not eating at all. And right now we see families waiting online for 5 to 7 hours to get meals. And so when you start looking at that desperation and people become desperate, your crime rates really go up, and exploitation and human trafficking go up. You're going to see a lot more children and teens who have COVID, who are being trafficked or being exploited because men who were buying children were not worrying about AIDS or, STDs. They're not going to be worrying about COVID-19. What happens is, and what you're going to see is that more children are going to be affected by it. And I don't think most people know this, but I believe it's still Louisiana that has the highest rate for children of HIV. And those are communities of color. And again, when we start talking about exploitation and communities in crisis, those are the ones that we really need to be rallying for together and standing up against and saying, what are we going to do to solve these problems? And what are we going to do to serve these people in the true capacity? Not where you take a picture on Facebook and say, we passed out masks and then we go home. Where we're staying in those communities and saying, okay, they need masks, they need food. These single moms need help with this homeschooling. I'm married. I have a husband. I'm working. My husband, this homeschooling, it's not easy. So you have parents that are feeling desperate, and then kids. And so it's just coming up with, I have so much faith that we can come up with the solutions. It's just, we need to come together to really provide these solutions.
So Z, I don't know, go ahead, your turn.
Wow. Jesus.
Okay. So
you're correct.
Can you hear me, sis?
We can come up with the solutions.
Yeah.
And we can come up with, yes, I hear you. Can you hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, okay. No, I was saying thank you, Jacqueline, because you're correct. We can come up with some solutions, and we can come up with those solutions collectively.
Yes.
Yieldedness and bringing the resources that we have available and asking others to bring in their resources, pool in their resources, and pool those resources together in a way that impact and change not only will be heard of, but it will also be seen. And when the lives of children are protected, which is our precious commodity and gift from God, are protected, it lends for long life and healthy families and healthy communities.
Yes.
Because then they can see life again as it was meant prior to anything they may have gone through. And it takes a loving, caring, nurturing community to understand that.
Yes.
That once we've shared, you've spoken with us about before, that once a child is recovered, the world should not expect that child to be what the world will quote and say normal. That child has just gone through something. So it's going to take time for that child to be redeveloped, re-nurtured, and a reset on the child through love and nurturing. And then they will absolutely be able to see some differences. But the whole difference in what needs to be seen is the world needs to see now from the children's viewpoint, not from their viewpoint. Because the children now have a deeper depth of understanding of what has just taken place.
Yes.
Dr. Williams is online. She said since 2008, Z and Jacqueline, Louisiana has been at the top for HIV cases with adolescents and under 18. So she worked as a physician in Shreveport. So she's saying since 2008, it's been pretty much leading. With that said, I think there was a scary, daunting number in 2010 when I was in HISD of students under the age of 17 that were positive for HIV. So a couple of things to take away so far. We've just thought about the idea of human trafficking as a pandemic. And I believe when I heard that, it's so profound because it places a new ear. A pandemic is anything global spread. Pandemic also can be rooted in the idea or the sensationalism of panic. However, because it's such a quiet, fleshly move, and there are others that are willing to fund it because it's kind of a wealthy, very expensive trade and it's profitable. It's one that's saying, you know what, we can't die from it. It's not going to affect my mama. It's not going to affect my dad or my kids like that. So it's not a pandemic. But in fact, if we look at this statistically or just hard numbers, clearly it is. And the impact, while you may, God forbid, potentially die from COVID, You may live with the scars and the bruises and the deep wounds of trafficking, no matter the age. I've always said this, much more than a 2-year plan of rehabilitation, much more than a 5-year. I believe this is a lifetime rehabilitative need. So the expenses far outweigh even treatment of COVID if done right. Think about it.
So, and done right is so important, because what frustrates people is when you recover a survivor of human trafficking and exploitation, a lot of times they do go back and they run, because it's the psychology of a victim who has been severely traumatized. And so I like to give this example. It's like if I'm a soldier and I go to war and I'm in Afghanistan, and the whole time I'm wishing that I'm at home, I want to be home. But then when I go home and I sit at the dinner table and people are just talking about regular things, and I'm not comfortable in my skin because I'm so traumatized about the things I've seen or done, and I cannot acclimate back into society, and no one is understanding like my post-traumatic stress. And then I have my own theory about present traumatic stress. And because we do not have a specific kind of trauma care, which the world is really building and changing, that our children are going back because they do form these trauma bonds with their traffickers. And I don't think that people understand that, because trafficking, it's not just the physical and the sexual and the raping breakdown. It is a mental bondage that they're forming with children. And also, children's brains aren't even developed as a teenager. Then they are addicted to some kind of drug or substance to self-medicate. So then when they get home, what happens is a lot of times the kids that have parents, their parents are saying, I didn't raise this child to be like this. She's yelling at me. I found her doing drugs. And I'm saying to the parents, you need to get counseling yourself, because this is not normal. Parents should not be expected to really know how to communicate with a child who has been trafficked, because this should never be happening in the world. So what happens is trying to take those parents, get them into a group. United Against Human Trafficking has it, and now there's some other organizations, so that the parents are dealing with their trauma, so that they know how to react to their child, because they don't want to re-trigger their child. And their child also needs a really special kind of help. And if we do not provide that kind of care, really trauma-informed care, specifically for this kind of sexual exploitation and bondage, we're just going to see this revolving door, because we're not providing them with the help that they need to heal and break that cycle.
I have a question here, and I think Nzinga will too. You sent us an article that we should peruse, and we did take a brief look at it shortly before. And in this article, I want to go ahead and state for the record, since we're using our influence, I use that loosely as well, our influence for good. In this particular article, and you're going to send it, I believe it's the source is foreignpolicy.com. And you are able to speak to foreign policy because just recently you were, I believe, inducted into the United Nations because of your work. Is it inducted or?
I was pinned and honored by the United Nations for the Women's Council that Susan B. Anthony started for women suffrage. So speaking to them about what's happening in the United States, in Texas, and globally is something that I can now do, which is exciting.
So it's you're part of United Nations then when you receive the pin?
Yes. Well, yeah, and they're yeah.
Okay, I'm trying to understand it, but it's a big thing because it does allow you a bigger platform to move around, which you'll do. I know you will. Yeah. So this foreignpolicy.com, the reason I bring that in is because you can speak to foreign policy, and definitely it means that you must become, if not already, more adept to the things happening internationally. So one of the things the article stated in foreignpolicy.com was, right now, or with any crisis that's global, everyone, if you are hearing me, I'm slowing down my rapidity so you can get this. Are you hearing me? Yes. 75% of humanitarian efforts. That's hunger, shelter, refugee crisis response. That's any healthcare needs are paused. 75% of the world's humanitarian efforts are paused during a global crisis, especially a highly contagious pandemic. So what's happening while we are worrying about ourselves, as we should, or worrying or concerned with our families, our well-being, this has just elongated a concern that was already at disproportionate levels for the underserved. So with that said, and Nzinga's going to speak as well. So I want to make sure everybody got that. 75% of what, so if we feed people, a lot of that's not happening as much as it normally would. If you're a big person that believes in healthcare across the world, United States included, not happening the same. If you're helping with shelter or its operations for even animals, not the same. Funding is shifting because people are trying to ensure that they're going to be okay during an economic pause or downturn. And so with that said, one of the things the article says, and Nzinga can speak to this, in addition to 75% stopping of help, there's an increase in human trafficking. If you don't hear me right now, this is a making of a very serious storm, because this 100 years, we haven't seen anything like this with COVID-19. And Nzinga, are you able to speak to that? Or are you paused? Because you have a face that's paused. I think she may be paused, like for real. Maybe she'll come back in. But in this, I can speak to it. Jacqueline, it's pretty much a scary thing. You're basically showing me that there is a correlation that scares me, honestly.
Right.
You're basically saying help goes down, risks go up.
Well, and I mean, it makes sense, sadly, the way criminals and predators think.
Yeah.
So when any country or the world is in a high crisis,
right,
you have your predators and your criminals sitting back, seeing how they can exploit the situation, because that's what criminals do. And the regular time, normal people are scrambling around to find out, how are we going to survive? And so with hurricanes, with natural crises, children are orphaned.
Right.
Communities that are in crisis, that are really struggling,
right.
They are struggling to survive.
Right.
And so while you're trying to figure all of that out,
right,
you have your wolves in sheep's clothing and your criminals in there exploiting, and it's easy to. And this really happened with Haiti.
Yeah.
Most people don't know about this, but the Clinton Foundation had actually gotten caught, and this isn't about politics. This is about a foundation that was just caught. They were taking 33 kids to the airport and over a border, and what they had said is that these children were orphaned. Now, maybe they did think that those children were orphaned, and maybe they didn't. I do not know the facts. All I know is, and what they discovered is that those kids were not orphans. Those kids' families were displaced because the hurricane in Haiti. That is what happened. But what happens in those areas is, it's very easy to take children and exploit them and traffic them when families are displaced. And so that is a big issue, and that is a big concern. And that was just one example of using it, because that's a very well-known foundation. Obviously, they said that they did not know.
Right.
But whoever brought those children to them then provided them with false information. And so again, like, we need to be diligent when you see these crises and pandemics. The media just reports, we're so gun triggered, we want a response right away, but we're not really providing facts. And the fact is that we don't really know everything about COVID-19. We don't know everything. We don't know if we're going to have a cure a week from now. We don't know if we're going to have a cure 2 months from now. What we know is that we need to become comfortable with living with COVID-19 safely, to protect our communities and also for the mental health of our public.
So I have a question. One of the things that I've been charging for a minute, God said to me, and I know I always say that loosely also, but well, not really loosely. I stand on it pretty firm. But it's an inside joke between she and I. But one of the things he said was to get a clinic started quickly, and it was happening right before COVID. It just kind of sped it up by a month. In addition to that, he said education. Get a place of safe education.
Right.
You know, right now that through child, as you said, there are different aspects or dynamics to human trafficking or any type of trafficking, making sure that I'm learning your lingo because it's important. We do know the same lingo and definition so that we can all communicate in a unified way to understand one another. So I'm attempting, and please correct me when I'm not getting it right. But when we're talking about website predators, I think about the fact of I was talking to one of the HOH ladies and I said, listen, we've got to get our eyes in the house. I was like, we need to be seeing what's happening. So I want a school digital where we are not just teaching content available online to press a button, like plug and play only. No, I want live interaction so you can see if there is Johnny the predator online trying to come in while these kids are trying to, assume credit for school. What do you think about that? Because in my mind, that's one way we can do our small part.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that that's so important. I have a child, and my child's school probably thinks that I'm crazy because I do not let my daughter's her picture's not on Facebook. Everyone always makes a joke. Oh, your daughter, she's got such a nice back of the head, because if there's 7 billion people on the planet, and 5 to 10% of them are criminals, and 3% are sexual predators, we don't really know. That's millions of people that you are opening your child up to. And that's a big way how children are lured, is over the internet and groomed. And a lot of times in the guise of other children who have been exploited. And so I think that is so necessary, because if we're going to be living like we do on the internet, like we do, we need to see who's watching all of our broadcasts. Because if I know that you're a sexual offender and I have all these kids in my classroom, that's a red flag. You should not be in my classroom. Another big issue that I have is in the United States, over 70% of children who are human trafficked come from the foster care and welfare system and social services. And so these kids are the most vulnerable and at risk and crisis. You also have your runaways that are obviously in big crisis mode too. Right. But basically, a lot of times you can go on these adoption sites and it'll show the picture of the kid, the age, the name. And to me, that's so alarming, because that's a playground for predators. You're giving them what gender they want, what race they want, what age they want. Then you're realizing, do they have parents? Are their parents trying to fight for them? And on those websites, there's not a register of people that are going to those IP addresses. And I think legislation needs to be passed where it has to be, because if John Doe is constantly going on these websites, yes, registered sex offender, then why are we not protecting our children? Like, we have a duty as a nation, we have a duty as human rights, civil rights, like humanity, to protect children, and to protect children that are the most vulnerable, that for whatever reason they are not with their parents, or their parents don't have the same resources. These are the communities and families that we need to be standing up for, because these are the communities that are hit the hardest. And I just want to make one more point. This is going to maybe offend some people, but when I first came to Texas 6 years ago, we weren't talking about girls of color going missing. The trend changed when it was wealthier white girls who had gone missing, and their families had the money and the resources to hire lawyers to change legislation, to go on the news and speak about it. And the news were taking their articles, because it was white men and white women, and this was a crime. Now, of course, We have to, as a society, value everyone the same, equally. We're not talking about the Native American girls who are being trafficked, and that right now COVID is tearing apart the indigenous community.
Yes.
And why are we not fighting for everyone equally? And that is a big problem. Why is the media so biased on a race and a gender? And so if we do not hold the media accountable, if we keep on watching media, we're going to keep on doing it, because in the United States and it's always going to be profit over people. So you're going to have to economically force them to
Come
do
on.
the right thing. They're not just going to do the right thing. You have to force them to do the right
Yes.
thing, which means that media won't make money.
Yes.
People are not going to watch it.
I think she's trying to say something. I don't know, but I can hear her attempting.
Oh, sorry.
And I know because we talk about media being, we're the reason we believe media needs to be responsible, or we need to bring responsibility to media.
Mm-hmm.
Because media, people follow the media and the money follows the media.
Right. Media, whoever controls the media controls the minds. That's why we merge entertainment with activism and social causes, because I learned 20 years ago when I did my first film, Not in My Backyard,
Yeah.
we were going to really start talking about oppression, economic racism, human trafficking, that we really needed to get the media involved, but to make it cool, to get celebrities involved, to make activism cool. So when I first started and we were merging fashion and media, people were like, this is not going to work. And thank God, God made it work. And now so many people are doing it.
Well, Z, I'm just going to keep checking in. I don't give up on you.
I see her.
She's moving too. Hold on. Bye.
She froze.
It's okay. I'm good.
I hear her.
And the reason, and I'm going to come back after she finishes.
Okay. That sounds good. Okay. So we
heard me?
Yes.
Yes.
You can?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, and that's what I wanted to say. That's what I wanted to say when you're talking about, Jacqueline, you're talking about the media, what we can do, even as social media wise, with us at the website, but with the digital platform we have Hope Over Hurt. That's our goal. That's our desire. Our desire is to do more content that is more relevant to the now, and it can be useful and educational. Yeah. And so when there was not a platform that we could do it in, bless God, he said, do your own, do your own platform, take authority over your own platform so that you can tell the truth in every area as it relates to the servicing, everything that's going on in the community, whether you're serving, whether you're doing outreach, or you're doing empowerment, which is our 3 pillars that we stand on. We can go in that and collaborate with whom we have to collaborate with. We know are doing the good and can't be bought. That's the beauty of what we do, doing the good and can't be bought. So if you can't be bought, that means you can't be silenced.
And that's so important.
And so that's it.
That's so important. I think, and I've talked about this, I think, with you and Wendy, people want justice. They want justice, but justice comes at a high price, because the people that are fighting for justice get retaliated against. So if they are standing there by themselves fighting for justice, and people are in their houses saying, well, we want justice, but we're afraid. If we do not come up and rise together and demand justice together, then it's going to be seen for whistleblowers and for activists and advocates to be retaliated against, because there is no voice for advocates. So advocates advocate for the survivors and the victims. But when we go up against the justice system, whether it's to change a police culture, a culture within the court system, to recognize that children are the victims and not the criminals. Yeah. A lot of times when you question that kind of authority, who does not like to be questioned or does not understand what is happening, there's a retaliation against you. And so we need to create a coalition, or really a panel that advocates or some people can say, this is what happened. I advocated for this victim. And because victim services, right now, it seems like the criminals have more rights than the victims.
Tell it.
And that's a very big pill for me to swallow. Like,
people don't know that. They don't know what you see every day. So what you just said, people are like, wait, it's not even computing. See, you speak it so fluid because it's every day for you. You just hit us with a brick just then.
Right.
But you see it and had time to process it. You have to repeat that again for those who are just catching wind of this.
Okay. So criminals have more rights than victims. And so for victim service advocates and activists fighting for victims' rights, it becomes very challenging because you're meeting the resistance every day. And you're meeting the resistance because you have an uninformed society who doesn't understand how human trafficking or exploitation works, or poverty, real poverty. How kids are being exploited through schools and everything. And just when you're going in to advocate for them, and whether you say to law enforcement, or whether you say to a judge, or whether you say to a court-appointed attorney who is going to get paid either way, no matter what happens with that child.
Right.
They have so many kids that they don't even understand the backstory. It becomes very frustrating. But the point is that with justice, if we're going to seek justice and we're going to seek a just world for everyone, we all have to stand together, and we all have to tolerate each other's perspectives, because the truth is that I didn't grow up the way you did. I do have a different kind of privilege. I'm white. I have light skin. And so I do have white privilege. And so, but in the same sense, a man will never know how I grow up, like, or working with female to change human trafficking, what I'll face as a woman. Right. And that my viewpoint is not valued the same. And so what I've really tried to do the older I get, because I could be so passionate, and it's frustrating to see people being exploited and suffering, is really try to understand everybody's different perspectives and where they're coming from, because we're not going to find solutions if all of our communities and races and cultures don't come together. Like, my race is a human being race. And until we all understand that as people, we are not going to be able to protect and serve.
We have a problem then, because we're against the grain there. So when I think about coalition, to me, that's an action-oriented thing. I love that. But when I think about a panel, I love that. But I think about whatever's going to work for it. It's almost like an inner justice for justice. Does that make sense?
Yes, exactly.
You have to be heard. Okay, the justice system didn't. So the appeal process actually goes through a truly unbought, bought out, nothing sold out, highly integritous coalition that almost people don't even get to know about. But if you hear, you're going to appeals and you're going to the coalition. And just think about it. And then all of a sudden you're kind of sent to this place and reheard to say, you know what, this wasn't done right. That is where, it's nobody that could be bought, if I'm thinking with this. Because if we're talking about going against the grain of, we know humanitarians are out there that believe in the beauty of unity of all cultures and socioeconomic resource. But the truth is, we know that's not what's winning right now.
Well, because people don't understand, and you're absolutely right. When you have profit over people, you need to change the cultural economic fabric in communities in crisis. And the reason why those communities are in crisis is because people are profiting. Like, the war on poverty is very profitable.
Right.
And people don't understand that. People don't understand that the war on poverty is very profitable.
That's right.
Understand that the courts are a cash register and how much money is being made. Now, do I love my country? Of course. Am I so happy that in America, like, I'm born and not in a third world country where I could be stoned to death? Absolutely. But that still doesn't mean that this is a correct system. And that still doesn't mean that you can just let people become oppressed, because that is not being patriotic. Being patriotic is standing up for what's wrong against your system and fighting for that, for equality for all people. And so I think that people kind of question things and misunderstand. I can be passionate about my country, but I'm so passionate about my country that I refuse to just sit by and let the courts be a cash register. I refuse for a court-appointed attorney to think it's okay to take 500 cases so that they can never give justice to children in crisis, or children of color, so that they will go to jail, they will be incarcerated, they will have for the rest of their life a record that they should not have been given. And I think the issue is that until you work on the front lines and you see it, you can't believe that that's happening, because that's not how a society should have been made. That's not how we should all be working together. You wouldn't think as an advocate, if you stand up for children's rights, or if you say to a police officer that's not trauma informed, hey, you can't talk to that child like that. They're not a criminal. They're a victim, that there would be a retaliation. That if you talk to a judge and you say, so you don't know the whole backstory on this, I don't think that you need to hear everything, so that you can make an educated opinion on what's really going to happen with this kid's future. Sometimes you have judges who are so progressive that have become a judge that they want to hear it. They're like, yes, thank you so much, and they value your input. And then other times you have judges that do not want to hear it. And that's the interesting point with anybody in power is they could be really good people in power. They could be corrupt people in power. They could be complicit. They could be ignorant. They could have an ego. And it just really depends. And that's why laws need to be just in place, so that if you break the law, no matter what power you are going to be prosecuted to the fullest. And if the judges don't enforce it, we need to hold the judges accountable for not enforcing that those laws be mandated.
That's where I'm saying the coalition becomes an action-oriented, unbought, highly integrative society of people.
Yes.
I mean, it sounds almost weird, but that's because it's just not normal. That's not normal, just like seeing the reality of human trafficking isn't normal. But you work in court systems. So you're speaking not from only reading newspapers. You actually are hands, feet to the ground for children. I would say anything 18 and under, anyone 18 and under?
Yes, for child sex trafficking victims.
So, and I'm just saying this for the record. So you are feet to the ground. So you hear every day something going on because you're on the phone, you're a liaison, right?
Yeah, so I see basically how it works is, besides being a human trafficking advocate, I'm also a human trafficking liaison. And so that means that also when the kids, when a child is recovered from law enforcement, a lot of times I'm there.
Right.
And I speak with them. I want to make sure that if they have parents, their parents are aware. If they have parents, that their parents are safe and they're not the ones exploiting them or trafficking them, because that is always a concern. If they're in CPS, what's the problem with the CPS home?
Do you see that often?
Children being trafficked by their families or within CPS? I see a lot of things often that are very disturbing. And so then I also see good parents who were not equipped for this kind of, they don't know how to react to this, or they don't have the resources or the education. And then accompanying them to court, sitting with their court-appointed attorneys and saying, do you understand how this child got here? Do you understand why? Do you understand that this child committed this crime under her trafficker? So I'm just not understanding why this is happening. Give me 1 second. I'm so sorry. My daughter just came into the room. Okay, sit right here, but you just can't be on camera. And so just because she's adorable.
Potato pancake, but we don't want to see you for safety reasons.
Yes. and so, but sitting with the court-appointed attorneys, understanding like,
Candy,
you know, they don't understand how this child has gotten here. They don't even have the energy. Half of these court-appointed attorneys, we need a court just for trafficking victims. And when I say that, I mean your judges need to be educated, your court-appointed attorneys need to be educated, your juvenile prosecutors need to be educated. And the reason why that has to be is because how human trafficking is not your typical crime. It doesn't work like any other crime. In most cases, law enforcement and detectives, they'll just work alone. In human trafficking, you work with a team. You work with the advocates. There's so much, a big part of continuum care and aftercare and wraparound services that in order to have a proper court system, you really would need to have a trafficking court. So that
would there be enough work for a trafficking court, or would that be just per county? Would that be cross jurisdictional? Because I guess one would say, is there even enough for a human trafficking court? Think about it. People really don't realize it's that.
Oh, human trafficking is massive. So basically, there would be so much and people really realize that. So in the state of Texas, there's over 300,000 human trafficking.
This question.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, Nzinga.
Oh, I was going to ask you if you didn't. Could you walk us through as you can and only you can, that process of every level of stage that a child goes through with you and the advocate group once you have retained them? What steps now that you are going through and then that child step through?
So in Harris County, what I really like about it and what the governor's office did is they did provide specific measures and steps that are important. And that means that when you recover a child, you get trained. It's the SEA testing. I'm trained for it to understand if this is a high-risk trafficking youth, that they are at high risk of being trafficked or they're already trafficked. What I like about that is because if we can prevent kids from being exploited and trafficked, that is huge. So the triad will then call also other advocates, which would be YMCA, BCFS, the Landing, all other groups that are trauma-informed trained to deal with child sex trafficking victims. And then from there, our goal is to make sure that they get trauma-informed care, that they're going into therapy. If they're addicted to a substance, we want to try to get them into recovery. I know with my nonprofit, Real Beauty, Real Woman, and Break the Cycle, a lot of times our families need to be relocated, and it's expensive, but we really try to do it because we understand that if you're living in fear and your trafficker knows where you are, not only are you in danger, but your brothers and sisters are in danger. Your parents are in danger. Then with my organization, we sit with the families, the ones that have families, and we work on what resources that they specifically need, which would be therapy and a counseling group that we would refer to United Against Human Trafficking or other organizations that could really provide them with those services. Since we all do different services, we work together collectively. And that's what I'm so proud about the advocacy community is how incredibly well we work together. And we understand that there are so many dynamics and layers to breaking this cycle that it can't just be one organization. It can't just be one person. And so we'll accompany them to court. If the judges ask us to write supervision plans for the children, because a lot of times what has happened is we really have to have an honest conversation about this. When you think about putting kids in a lockdown, you think that that's barbaric. But when you know that your trafficker can get to you and you need to be really trauma informed and deprogrammed, you need to know that you're not going to go anywhere for a couple months, that we're just working on you. And sometimes that's really hard to embrace. But it helps the children so much. So we'll write a supervision plan with the judges to talk about what we think should happen with the children and with the families. Or we'll work with the caseworkers from CPS, their attorney ad litem, and we'll sit down and we'll say, okay, what is best for these kids? A big part of what I think is so important is we need to tap into people's hopes and dreams. If I don't have any hopes and dreams and I've been so abused and I think that I am nothing,
Yeah.
and that the only person that's going to love me is my trafficker who broke me, then I need to realize that I have hopes and dreams, and by tapping into them, we really like to help provide those for them. So with our center, we have a sewing program, women, and these are now women who take our program. A lot of them are from the WHO prison program, Santa Maria. They learn how to make candles, skirts, soaps, if they want music lessons. And then they take this from 3 months to 6 months. And then when they graduate, they get their own sewing machine. Actually, Hope Over Hurt provided us with a bunch of them, so thank you. But it's just really, we didn't know how that program was going to work. And the women even still write about, even on Facebook, and say, this program really changed our life, because they got a journal that said, create your own magic. And then they had a speaker come in with each workshop who went through what they went through, who really got over it, so that they can identify. It's really hard for human trafficking victims to self-identify that they're victims, for so many different reasons. And that would be another hour. But what we want them to identify with, though, is that they're beautiful and amazing people, and that we've all done things and have been broken and have been manipulated. And what are your dreams? And when people start having faith, hope, and their dreams alive, they start changing. The narrative starts changing. And if we can help facilitate that, that is something that we really love to do. And I think that with the kids, that's really important. Going into the detention centers, a lot of people don't know that the kids, they were quarantined for 23 hours a day in their cells. And so what do you do for that? You ask church organizations, can you write letters? Can we get videos in for these kids to watch about, if you want to be an animator, this is how you animate. If you want to be a hairdresser, this is how you hairdress. If you want to be a radio DJ, this is how it happens. And that's one of the things of Real Beauty, Real Woman Foundation, and then the entertainment part, Real Beauty, Real Woman, because they are different, but they're support each other, is merging those entrepreneurships with giving the right tools and resources to kids, because every kid has different dreams. We're all different. But what we have learned and seen is that when you have been severely exploited, a lot of times maybe college and an office job is not going to be the best fit for you.
Yeah.
Some of them, yes, but that doesn't mean that your dreams are still not valid.
Right. And so I've written some notes down, and we have to definitely talk offline, because, well, firstly, your screen has become so blurry, Jacqueline. I don't know if it's a bandwidth. Yeah, but all of a sudden you're it's almost looking like the Mona Lisa.
Can you see me now?
It's your internet. It changed. I think it's the bandwidth.
Hold on.
I bet Potato Pancake is near you with an online device.
Oh yes, you can.
No. But we can hear you. No.
Okay.
Don't worry about it. We're almost wrapping up. This is good. We're at home.
We can hear you.
It's okay.
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. So and I know Z is going to, because two things. If you could answer me one question, when you said relocate, is it the whole family or just the child?
The whole family.
And if you're relocating them, what's the average cost, if you could, to relocate with your organization?
Well, that depends. So if it's a small family, it's a couple $1,000s. If it's a larger family, it's about $5,000, because you need to move them.
2 to 5. Okay. I'm writing that down. Also, you said videos from entrepreneurs while they're inside on lockdown for 23 hours a day. If we were able to get these videos, these could then be approved and then sent to you with people who are on this. You have people, I can't even show you the new comments because the system got stuck. So people are saying, thank you. It's a crime against humanity, but I can't upload them. Samantha says, great work, ladies. So there are still comments coming in, and we thank you for the comments. And, you know, technology is what it is, but we're rolling with it. But I have people on here that actually work in the vocations of some of what you named. So the thing is, if they created a 30-minute somehow compressed file that you approved of, are you saying we could figure out a way that this could be actually shown inside?
So what we've done with the different shelters and certain detention centers is we have created videos.
Okay.
And so and that's the tutorial. So I would love to see what everybody's videos are, because it really takes a village, you know, and serving, it just takes such a huge village, and I'm just blessed to be a small part of that village.
Okay.
And, we need videos from hairdressers. Hold on for a second. Okay, go ahead. We need, sorry, my child. She doesn't wait for anything. But we need videos, you know, from all different trades. You know, it's like welding. If you want to be a welder, how do you weld? And while these kids are in here surviving COVID, I know with a lot of the shelters,
wow,
before they opened up, and if it doesn't open up or does, we already have programs in certain safe havens, but then we had to move to a video platform. And it's then, how do we provide that video platform? And, you know, just kind of being innovative and creative. So we would love to work with people that have a skill set. That would be amazing.
I have one here saying I'm good for a video on hair, because she's a stylist. She's actually my stylist when she's in town for hair. I'm interested in a makeup artist. I want to speak to people who do nails. I want to speak to a female DJ. I don't know if she's, I'm just willing to say, hey, this is what it is. If we just have a guideline, this could be something people can do while they're at home that could be inspiring.
Right. And that's exactly what it is. And that's what I love. See, because our brains are so similar, you and I. And what it helps people, you know, people are so good by nature. You know, criminals are just a small level, but people are so good by nature. They want to help, they want to serve. And this is like a great opportunity. So I'm excited to see, you know, the videos. We sent a lot of the girls beauty care packages to learn about doing makeup, and then hair. Obviously, we couldn't send them anything with scissors, so it was hair where you could do all these hair designs without having to use scissors. But they're so creative and talented that I'm just always in awe of what the girls and the women create. Actually, at Santa Maria right now, and I want to tell you this beautiful story, and then I'll stop talking.
You're just getting a lot of support right now. Some people are asking about fitness. Can I do a video on fitness, self-defense?
Yeah.
I'm trying to.
Santa Maria, you know, we always did the sewing program, and then they called and they said, hey, can we have a couple of the sewing machines? We can't keep on affording to pay for masks, you know, because you don't think about shelters, recovery. You have to throw out your masks. And what's so cool is that some of the girls who took our sewing programs are now sewing masks for everybody in Santa Maria. And I just thought that was the coolest thing.
Yeah.
And I just thought, like, what a blessing God gave, like, Real Beauty, Real Woman and myself.
Yes.
That stuff makes your heart so happy, you know?
I call it, what do I say? It gives me happy.
Yeah.
It brings me happy. That's what I'll say. Yeah, it brings me happy. It does. And so just to think the seeds that we're sowing, just talking about this, I just believe God right now. I don't know who African is, but she says, hey, how can I contribute? So right now, what we're going to do while this is on your heart and while the momentum is going, I'm going to close out by asking what 3 basic things are required for the video. Is there a length of time? You know, so can they submit them to you?
So they
give them that. And I'll try
to info@rbrw.org. And we ask that the videos not be longer than 20 minutes or 15 minutes, just because people have a low attention span nowadays.
Yep.
So, and then to do them in like the basic and build up,
Yep.
so that you can really learn, like, okay, here's the basic steps for 15 minutes, and then the next and the next and the next. We also have celebrities that have done video shout outs for the kids, which I love, which has been so great. And then we have survivor leaders who...
Do they say their names or shout out to...
They don't say the kids' names. They just say that
Right.
we know that, right now times are tough. We have not forgotten about kids that are in detention, kids that are in shelters who've been trafficked and exploited, or, have poverty. We're thinking about you. We really want these kids to know that, like, society and the world knows about them and is rooting for them and wants to really support them, because these are the kids that need the most support.
So I have videos in levels of 15 to 20 minutes, nothing sharp, or if you can, just keep the video.
Yeah, you have to be creative. So like with, for the crocheting, we now started moving to, there's people that crochet with their hands, because in some of the places they can't have anything sharp. In a lot of the safe havens, they can, once they get to a different place.
Right.
But they since you can't bring outside teachers in because of COVID, we didn't want the classes to stop. So we started moving to video, and we just started getting creative. Like, okay, well, here's a really cool hairstyle, but you don't need scissors to do it.
What about a chef? Do they not show cutting?
So I think that, though, I think chefs and healthy eating is super important. I think that, I'm not such a good cooker. Like, I'm not so domestic like that. I love to bake. But then with COVID-19, I really started cooking more. And what I love about that is being able to really cook for my family. But I want my family to eat healthy stuff, but healthy stuff that tastes good. So it would be great to have videos of like healthy eating.
Yeah.
But food tastes good. Like, I'm not into the food that's healthy but doesn't taste good.
Right.
I don't know how people eat that. I'm not disciplined enough like that, but I think it would be great for the girls and the boys to learn this is what you can do. I mean, urban gardening is so important. We were a part of a project where one of my friends produced it, and it was called From Gangs to Gardens, and it was all these gangsters that had gotten out of the life that in Detroit and Denver really did all this gardening and taught kids about how to eat healthy and how to grow your own food, and that you don't need to live on acres. You can grow up in concrete buildings and put them on your rooftops. I just think that things like that are so powerful for kids, especially kids that we need to give them videos that relate to where they grew up in, so that they can see that in those environments they can excel.
Okay, I have a list.
Okay.
And
thank you.
Yeah, I have a list here. And so I think our signal is shoddy. People are dropping off, and I know it's not because the content isn't good. It's because of our wonderful signal. I don't know what's happening. And I want to just go ahead and wrap this up, ladies. Can you believe it's been over an hour?
No, I can't.
It's been so good. The information is good. So I have Jada for Fitness Self-Defense. We have someone with a video on hair. We're going to speak to a chef. We're going to reach out to people who know about food and gardening. I have a couple of, different videos that maybe just different varieties. As with anything, a genre can have 7 videos in the same genre. It's whatever resonates to the child that's in. So I want to just say, Nzinga, close us out. I'm excited. I love you to the moon.
I love you guys too. Thank you for always praying for me and just having the purest hearts.
We love you. For real, for real.
I know.
Yeah, for real, for real. Okay, Z, without us getting more mushy, because people don't realize how she and I roll. You've been for a little while, but yeah, I'm glad to be on the
it's so good. Ditto.
Yeah.
Ditto.
Uh-oh.
I'm excited too.
Oh, go.
Oh,
well, guess what?
I'm excited too about the being able to help produce some video shout outs you know, some video shout outs like you mentioned, Jacqueline. I think if we can definitely do some of those for sure, along with a lot of other things. I'm just grateful.
Me too.
We are just grateful for the connect, for the love, for the compassion, and for the joy of living and the joy of putting others, you know what I'm saying, before ourselves. And so you dog and all of your family, Cindy, likewise your family, all of literally around the world for good. For the time of sharing, and it won't be the last time.
I
So
hope
grateful
not.
for the bring
We
together
just
like
gotta have
this,
better
even with
bandwidth.
our family around the globe. So thank you, Jacqueline, and thank you, sis.
You have, I wish I could be blackmailish and like
I missed the last comment, but I believe it was okay.
we're having such a hard time. It's really trumped your conversation, but we had some real good blackmail videos. And I just want to say thank you to all who
It's okay.
to us. I know. If you want to know
And
more
it's
about
okay.
the organization, go to RBRW. Is that the email? RBRW.org.
So you would, to email, you go to info@rbrw, but then for our website, so the entertainment fashion platform for social responsibility is rbrw.org, but then the nonprofit is www.rbrwbreakthecycle.org.
You heard it first here with us. Hope overheard. We hope that we could get Jacqueline regularly, because we want this to be a cathartic, rehabilitative way for the society to get the truth, the real news that isn't sitting here hoping to do anything but set us all free. I'm Wendy J. Turner. That's Jacqueline Aluotto and Nzinga. Thank you for just being patient with us through this COVID-19 experience of technology. Love is our arsenal. We believe God watches his word to see it performed, but he's watching us to be his partner. Will you continue kingdom work with us? There are too many areas needing you. You are loved beyond any curse. You matter. You're included. And on behalf of the entire kingdom at large, we welcome you in advance. We'll talk to you soon. Bye for now. Yeah. Amen. Oh, I can't even do it yet. Computer saying stuck. Oh my God. It's stuck. I kid you not. I kid you not. Like, this is hilarious. It's been funny. I don't know what happened. This is the first time has ever done it. He won't even like fix it. It's still, I think click. And yep, it won't go away. I can't make it up. I can't make it up. My computer is completely
just
frozen. It's fun. This is too fun. Yeah. And then there was one. This is fun, y'all. I tell you, technology is not our friend today. And he won't even allow me to force quit. I have an idea. Yes. Do 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 do. Dear new. Let's try this. I mean, I really can't even get off. Like, seriously, let's see. If y'all are watching, you're seeing me really have computer issues for real. I kid you not. It's fun. But I'm enjoying it a little bit here. Let's see. Ha! Ha!